I did a few months of testing course and then got myself in as a QA engineer.
More than even 40 LPA or 45
Yeah,
LPA?
definitely. So you had to go for on off campus. So it's the job of data analyst to know both the fields and gel them together. Yeah, there are 4 rounds, with first one being a test and then 3. I've never been asked as well things related to DSA and such.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Learning Bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. So last time when I uploaded the Data Analyst roadmap video, I asked if you guys will complete 1000th like on this video, I will bring the podcast with the data analyst from top tech company. So I kept my promise, you also kept your promise, and here is your podcast. Today I will be having an amazing discussion with a talented data analyst who worked in a company like Uber, and he will be sharing some amazing information with you all, like what are the roles and responsibilities of a data analyst, what they do in their day-to-day activities, how to crack companies like Uber for the data analyst role, complete interview experience, how to prepare, what will be expected, how much coding you need for the data analyst role, discussions related to salary, and how you can become a good data analyst. So that's why so many things to learn from this podcast. Make sure you watch it till the very end. I will bring some more data analysts from top tech companies, and you can also suggest your preferred companies in the comment section. I will prioritize them first, and if you are watching any of my video for the very first time, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon. And whenever I talk about cracking top tech companies for the big data related job profiles, then understanding of cloud and cloud computing becomes really important. We have the different cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and they also provide professional cloud certification, and cracking them can definitely add some credibility in your profile. And cracking these certifications definitely require lots of practice and real-time work, and to help you with that problem, we have QwikSkills platform. So QwikSkills platform actually help you to learn real cloud skills on live cloud labs. They have 28 cloud certifications, adding more every week, 100 plus practice test with real exam simulation, 6000 plus questions with detailed answer explanation. And here you can see they have covered certifications for different cloud providers, AWS certificates, GCP, Azure, VMware certificates. For success in any cloud certification, try QwikSkills cloud practice tests, which are very relevant and always up to date. And here you can follow this exact path to crack your cloud certification exams, and these are the features and benefits you will be getting from QwikSkills platform: unlimited access, detailed explanation of the practice questions. These practice sets are curated by certified experts, regularly updated content. This platform is a one-stop solution for the cloud certification and very easy to use. You do the sign up and your profile will be created. Here you can see your account, all details. Just choose your certification from here. You can see all the details here, practice test and total number of questions, and you can start practicing here. You can use hands-on cloud labs, which will give you the practical feelings. You can create the things, you can learn things, and once you pick the hands-on cloud labs, you can pick the cloud category, and even within that, whatever service you want to practice, every detail will be mentioned here. Every single minor detail will be mentioned here, and after that you can just come here, start your lab and practice things in the real time. So very amazing platform to crack your cloud certifications. You can use the link which is in the description and also this coupon code first month, and you will get 30% extra discount. Offer valid for limited time, so use it as soon as possible. Alright, so thank you so much Ankit for joining me on my podcast. And guys, as you requested me to bring someone from the data analyst background from really good companies, so here is your podcast. So it would be really great, Ankit, if you can introduce yourself to the audience and little bit about your academic background.
Yeah, sure. So as he mentioned, I'm Ankit. So I was working as a data analyst for Uber for some time now, like over 10 months now. So I started my career as a QA analyst from metric streams. In academic perspective, I actually started my graduation under civil engineering. So that was a bit different. Although I did want to join into IT or something like that, CSE or such, but the thing was like I couldn't get into a tier 1 college or tier 2 in that matter. So it was a tier 3, and civil and mechanical was the most promising thing out of those. But since I already had an inclination toward IT, I finally decided like I'll anyways go into that. And the best way to break yourself into IT was either get into a very low level development job or testing job. So I did a few months of testing course and then got myself into metric stream. That was my first company as a QA engineer. So that's where it all started, and then over time my inclination started towards data science, data analysis and such. So once I was pretty good, I had a pretty good hands-on with reporting, dashboards and analyzing the data, EDA and such. I started exploring my career path into that, and that's when I made my switch into Uber. The thing about Uber was the flexibility that was given. So with that, I was able to explore a lot in data analysis field.
All right, so that's a very awesome experience, Ankit, I would say. And the journey you had, civil engineering, then started as a QA analyst. And guys, Uber is definitely a kind of company which is really best if you are someone who want to move into the data and you actually want to see some really good use cases for the data, so Uber is definitely one of the best for that. So I think Ankit's experience will definitely help you if somebody is preparing for companies like Uber for the data analyst role. That would be great if you can like this video in really big numbers so that we can help more aspiring data professionals. So moving on to next question, Ankit, you did your graduation in civil engineering. So how was your college life? Because if somebody is in core CS, then things will be a bit different, but you were in the civil engineering. So did you face any challenge at that time figuring out your career profile, industry, whatever it was?
Yep.
And how did you get your first job as a QA analyst?
So the thing was with core branches as such in almost all colleges. I'm not really sure about tier 1, but I can tell from my experience and from others that with core branches there is a little bit of flexibility and lax environment that you get. So you have a lot of time on your hands to explore, and I would not be lying. I'll just go straight to the fact. It's a fact that with core branches you get a really great amount of free time. So you are not even asked about assignments and such. So that's when you can explore everything. So what really started me going towards IT was like I was already inclined before going into college itself toward IT, but with civil engineering and such, I thought like that's something that can be put on the back. But over time, I got into graphic designing and such. So when I got first introduced to motion graphics, that's when I realized like you can put IT and CSE into these things as well. Like it's everywhere. You can't escape from it. Then I got into my fourth year, and that's when I had to do my final project, and that's where again I got into a project related to GIS, and that's what put me on the track of learning Python. So that's I think that was the turning point when I realized you can't run away from IT, and it's already there, and if you have the inclination or if you have even a small hunch in you that you can make it, you should always go ahead and try about it.
Yep.
So one thing which I would suggest to anyone who want to make a switch from, let's say they are not doing a graduation in any IT field and they do want to move into it, two good ways to get into that is AMCAT and 𝗓𝗓. I'm not really sure what's the environment right now, but at the time 𝗓𝗓 and AMCAT, they were like the pinnacles of the thing. With 𝗓𝗓, like the offers that we were getting were pretty big. Like for a fresher, 5.5 LPA is a pretty big thing. So that's the kind of offer 𝗓𝗓 gets us. So I would really suggest if somebody wants to do that switch, those two ways are really good to go. We were getting some placement offers on in campus, but it was inclined towards IT and CSE. There was almost nothing for the core branches. So you had to go for off campus. So I did try a few places. I did get into Byju's at the time, but I still wanted something better. So what I did was, as I said, I went for 𝗓𝗓. I gave the test, and thankfully it went up to like 99 percentile. So that was pretty good. So with a bit of training in testing from Bangalore, that's when I got my first job in metric stream. Right from 𝗓𝗓, I got the job offer and such, and that's how it went.
So moving on to the next question, Ankit. So you have been working with Uber as a data analyst and now actually moved to a different company recently. So many people wanted to know what does a data analyst do, because this was the most often asked question. Honestly, I can understand. I'm in the data domain. You are also in the data domain, and there is lots of noise in the market because under the big data umbrella, there are lots of job profiles: data analysts, data scientists, data engineers. So that's why I want you to explain that what actually a data analyst do in his day-to-day activities in companies like Uber, and what are their roles and responsibilities.
In terms of data analyst, one of the recent definitions which I got from one of my managers, that was pretty good. I couldn't have put it in a better way. So there are two layers to the whole data field: the data engineers, and then you have the data scientists. So data engineers work on the platform, while data scientists, they work with the business. So it's the job of data analysts to know both the fields and gel them together. So I really like that definition a lot. So I actually agree with them. So in Uber, that was part of the job. You had the platform ready, you had the warehouse with you, and on the other side, you had the stakeholders and the business completely. The context was ready for you to grab. So all the data analysts have to do is understand the business and bring in the insights that would be really helpful for stakeholders. So in terms of what we have to do as a data analyst on a day-to-day basis, it's usually the same. You have stakeholders coming in with requests, or you have stakeholders with problem statements, or some concerns. It could be really small or really big in terms of business, and or you have the data ready with you. So as an analyst, you have to go into the data, explore it completely, like go ahead and do any kind of EDA, whichever you can, and bring in the insights that would help them take that final decision. So
Yeah.
it can be literally anything. So it could be as big as an audit going on a particular zone, or it could be as small as a particular user being impacted or such, and you just have to deep dive onto it. So that's what that's what I did as an analyst in Uber.
So I hope Ankit's answer would have explained your doubt about the roles and responsibilities of a data analyst. But just still, if you feel you want more clarification, you can mention it in the comment section. And just based on your knowledge, you can tell us in the comments what do you understand about the data analysts, data scientists, data engineers. So moving on to the next question, Ankit, that is, if someone wants to start its career as a data analyst, so what kind of crisp roadmap would you like to suggest to them, and at least for the beginners? And if you followed anything like any step-by-step guide and important resources for them, you want to suggest, that would be great.
Yeah, so on the terms of roadmaps and guides, I think there are lots of them out there on the internet. So like there's towards data science, analytics within everything. Everybody has a roadmap. So one thing that you will definitely find in common in them is SQL and Python. And I would really suggest, I totally agree with them. One thing which nobody is ready to agree, but is a fact, is 80% of their job is on SQL, or at least any of the database languages. So that's something which I would really suggest someone who wants to get into data analytics, they should definitely be pretty good at SQL. Like that's the start of everything. You need to get the data from wherever it is. And then Python is the most handy language right now in terms of any data related activities. There is also there are other tools as well which do it, like they are pre-built to do it, but Python gives you the most flexibility in those terms. So that's something to explore. And one thing which really confuses people is to what extent learn Python. So it's pretty simple. You have to just learn it in terms of data, not in terms of development. Otherwise, you can get really sidetracked. That's something which happened to me. So I always suggest this: concentrate on the data side of Python.
Yeah.
And another thing would be like to work on projects. Always look for projects and don't depend on Kaggle on that, because Kaggle gives you the data ready to use. You didn't get the part where you actually have to collect it and clean it. So that's a pretty big thing for a data analyst to learn. So a really good project would be to start it from the scratch, collect the data on your own, be it web scraping, be it an API or anything, and then clean the data in your code itself, in your project itself. Show that how you are cleaning it, what are the methods that you have used, and then move on to performing the EDA and such and getting the right insights. And another way, very quick break into data analyst field is going into dashboarding. If you have that even a small bit of inclination toward let's say being artistic and such, you can really crack your way really good in data analytics with dashboard.
The top three things you mentioned, SQL, Python, and dashboarding, I think these are the must to have skill sets for any of the data analysts and move forward into the industry. So among these three, you can rate yourself and let me know in the comment section how well you know Python, SQL, dashboarding out of 10. That would help me as well to think kind of content where I can help you with the data analyst related things. So moving forward to the next question, Ankit, I think this is the main and very much important question. The folks who are watching this video are waiting for this question, the interview experience. So there are many folks who want to crack the data analyst role in top product based companies like Uber, and Uber is definitely like one of the popular companies for the data related roles. So can you please share your complete interview experience for the data analyst role at Uber? Like how many rounds were there in each round? What kind of questions did they ask? I think this will help the audience a lot, and this is a kind of first data analyst interview experience I'm covering on my channel, so I want it to be the best.
Yeah, definitely. So I think this should be good, because and it's actually needed. I've been reached out to by a lot of people by now. In the past 1 week itself, they were asking like how does it go, what's the steps, because they have been applying in it. So like starting like the number of rounds, it goes, I think there are 4 rounds, with first one being a test and then 3 face-to-face interviews. So it starts with an technical assessment. No, sorry, not a technical assessment. It's more like statistical assessment. So it assesses you on your statistical like skills and how well you are in logic building, qualitative and quantitative aptitude. So there are some questions related to statistics, and then there are quantitative and qualitative aptitude questions like numerical questions, and then logical reasoning and such. So that's where you begin. Once you crack through that, you have your first technical interview round, which is mostly concentrated on SQL and Python, but it can span over other things depending on the requirement of the role. But SQL and Python are the deciding factors in it. More on SQL actually. So yeah, if you are good at the basics of SQL, so up till joins, you can easily crack through the first round. And communication is really important in this role, like, because you will be in terms with the client and the stakeholders every day for hours. So you need to be really good at communication. That's a very big factor to be a data analyst, especially at Uber. So that's being assessed on the first round itself. Once you go through that, once you pass through it, you have the manager round, wherein the hiring manager would actually not take a technical interview. It would be more on case studies and scenarios. So you'll be presented with various scenarios related to Uber or related to anything else. It could be day to day, it could be really trivial, or it could be really business driving scenarios. And you have to put in your points on how you will solve that particular scenario, or how you will treat that scenario and go about it in terms of data, not in any general term. You have to be specific with data and how you'll use data to solve those things. So it can be really anything. So from my experience, I could say the first question which came to me was, Uber is launching in a new city, and how would you decide the number of drivers that should go live? So there are thousands of answers for this, but you have to make sure you are going with something that's dependent on data and not something trivial or something that's a day-to-day thing. So that really decides shows what kind of perspective you hold with the scenarios. So once you go through this, there would be like 2 to 3 scenarios given to you, and the answers that you put in. So again, you'll be assessed on your communication and how logical you are on this. And once you go through this, there is a last round with the stakeholder who you will be supporting. So it's more on an introductory part and not actually assessing you. They just talk to you, get to know how you communicate and what would be your approaches. They would put in front of you what they are expecting from you if you join, and whether you can deliver on that or not. So if you feel promising to the stakeholders, which they usually do because you have already passed through the hiring manager round, so that's the final round, and then once you go through it, you are in.
Sounds good, and I think this will be really helpful. The folks who are seeking the help regarding the interview experience of the data analyst, and that was really helpful. Thanks, Ankit. Thanks for sharing the whole process. And guys, if you also find it insightful, you can like it so that more and more people can know about the interview process for the data analyst at Uber. And if any of you are watching the video and let's say had the interviews for the data analyst role in any of the good product based companies, you can even mention your experience in the comment section. That will be also helpful for the audience. So moving on to the next question, Ankit, and I think this is very common. I have received tons of queries where folks are asking like how much coding is required for the data analyst role. Coding as in like DSA, typical DSA related question. How much is it important? Do companies ask for the typical DSA questions in the data analyst interviews? You can summarize your answer and just clarify it to the audience whether it is important. If yes, then till what extent?
It actually depends on company to company what kind of requirements they have from the data analyst, but it's usually not that intense. It's just you should be able to handle data with your code. That's the maximum extent that you'll be using actual coding in your day-to-day work. So SQL has to be good, and not to the extent that you know PL SQL and such, like writing complete procedures. Basically, you should be able to retrieve data and manipulate it while retrieving it, basic data cleaning and stuff. And with Python, you should be able to handle the data, derive insights from it. So basically pandas, numpy, and if you go into modeling, then you should be like sklearn and such. So, but there is, I don't think, and I have never used it, and I've never been asked as well, things related to DSA and such. So that really doesn't come into picture. But some companies, what they also require data analysts to do is bring tools in which can help solve problems. So for example, on a day-to-day basis, let's say I'm analyzing a particular set of drivers in Uber. So what I'll be expected is to bring in a tool, introduce a tool into the team, which can do it pretty easily and does not require anybody else to code. They can use it as a reference point. So it could be an API endpoint, it could be a UI tool and such. So that's when it is possible that you would be expected. But if you don't know it, it's still a fine point, because nobody would actually be expecting from you to build the whole thing. What is expected to bring in the back end of that, how you are going to retrieve the data, how you are going to manipulate the data to show it to the stakeholders, that's what matters. So totally going into coding and such, I don't think it's really required, and I have never used it to that extent. The max I have done in terms of coding is writing a few class files, and that's it. And that's like I think 2 class files, and they were not even robust or anything. They were not using any of the OOP concept to that extent that I should know everything.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how much you should know.
Fair enough, and I think this will again clarify the doubts of the audience regarding the DSAs in the data analyst interviews. So it seems like definitely your fundamentals should be clear, because DSA is something which is very common. You might have studied these things in the college itself, at least the basic understandings. So whatever you know, that's good to have, but you don't need to invest that much amount of time like practicing lead code medium questions, lead code hard questions kind of thing, right? So that's fair enough. Thanks, Ankit, again for clarifying this one. Now moving on to the next question, and that is basically the divergence from the data analyst profile. Like if someone wants to, let's say till 5 years, 6 years, they spend their time in the data analyst role. Now they are just looking for other job opportunities or the job profiles within the big data domain, where they can excel, they can learn new things. So like after the data analyst, what could be the possible options someone can look for? And if there is any, will it be difficult or will it be easy to shift into other profile?
Yeah, in terms of the next roadmap, that's something even I'm exploring. I'm still pretty new here, but yeah, the ones which I found out, I think everybody would be knowing this, that the data scientist field, you can make the move, and data analyst role actually helps here because you are in direct contact with the stakeholders and the business, and data science needs you to be in touch with the business in all aspects. So it really helps to start as a data analyst, and you can make the transition into a data scientist. Then there are other roles like management level roles, program managers, team managers, and then even into the business teams. So data analyst role does give you a pretty good crack into it because you are again directly in contact with the business. You have those ins, you have those leads and such. So it's pretty good field to make your contacts there, start your networking. So that's where you can like dive directly into the management field. And then I would say, I don't think data analyst actually closes any doors. It actually opens everything up into the data field. You can move on to anything wherever your inclination is. If you are inclined toward architecture and such, you can go that way. If you are inclined toward business, you can be an SME, you can be a full-fledged business analyst and such. So it opens up every role that's there related to business. I have seen people become operational analysts and compliance analysts and such who are totally dedicated to business. So it's just, there are lots of doors to take. The easiest ones are data related, data scientist, SME, and business analyst. But it's like everything is open to you now. That's the kind of thing it's with the data analyst.
So we can just end this podcast with one last and very much important question again, that is related to the CTCs and all. So Ankit, I think this question will have 2 parts. First, like, do companies hire freshers for the data analyst role? Because this was also one of the often asked question. Like good product based companies are not hiring for the data related roles, anything. So it would be good if you can clarify. And second, like companies like Uber, if someone is moving into the data analyst role, and everybody knows about the CTC part at Uber, they are definitely paying well for the data related roles as well and software engineering roles as well. So even if you can mention the probable CTC range, at least at your experience level, or even if you know it for the freshers, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, this is a pretty big question actually out there, and people are skeptical as a freshers to think that they can crack their way into it. But the thing is, they can, and it actually does not depend on what kind of background you have, be it academic or your career related background. DA roles, data analyst roles, people are more looking at your skills and projects rather than what you have done before. So as a fresher, if you have the right projects, if you have the right inclination and you can show it on your resume, that's what drives it. And another important part, you should be able to communicate your resume through the whole interview process. You should be pretty conversing into that. So if you can do that, you are pretty good to go. It does not matter whether you are a fresher or you are experienced candidate out there. Because I have seen people get in as a fresher. I have taken interviews of freshers who have got in through the process. So it's the whole process, the data analyst role itself, it's not biased in those terms. So it is possible for a fresher to get in. And in terms of CTC, it again depends on the companies, but it ranges from somewhere around 7 LPA. And it can go as high as 15 LPA if you are totally new to the whole data field. So that's the range which you can look for. And again, from company to company, it's negotiable. It depends on how well they treat your skills and how much valuable they think of you as an asset. So, but yeah, it can go up to 15 as a newcomer into the field. And as you grow in, as you move on with your experience, the hikes are pretty big. The jumps are pretty big. Like, it can go from not just 100% hike, it could go beyond 200% as well. So the field is pretty giving at the time. So it's really good to explore in. And yeah, as a fresher, I would say getting into data analyst could be tricky, but it's not impossible and not really difficult as people think. And if you already have your foot in, then you are way ahead already from other things.
Yeah, awesome. And at least for the mid-level experience, as you mentioned, 100, 200. So somebody should expect more than even 40 LPA or 40, 45
Yeah,
LPA.
definitely. The thing is, I have tried a few places where those were the benchmarks with the packages. Although I couldn't get in because I was not I didn't know how to answer some important business questions. But yeah, there are offers out there. If you are that skilled, you can get in with just 2 years of experience into the field. Not even 2 years, sorry, less than 1 year.
Cool. Now I think you should understand the worth of these profiles as well. Still, you are just running behind something vague and just trying to think that you can make a lot of money there. So that was the whole purpose, to bring people from the data analyst background, that too from some really good product based companies, so that you can get the meaningful insights that how to crack these kind of companies, what kind of CTC you should expect, the proper roadmap and interview experience. And I think you helped a lot, Ankit, the audience, and your experience will matter a lot to them. And from my side and from the audience side, thank you very much for coming here and sharing your wonderful experience with us.
Yeah, it's been really great, and I really hope this helps a lot of people, because the data field needs more people right now.
So that's what I had for you guys in this podcast. I hope you would have enjoyed this. You would have liked this information related to data analyst. And if you think this podcast is informative and you want this podcast to reach to maximum number of aspiring data professionals, then like this video in really big numbers. Share your thoughts, opinions in the comment section. And also don't forget to check QwikSkills platform for the cloud certifications. I have shared the link in the description. Use it and use the coupon code. You will get extra 30% off. And if you are watching any of my video for the very first time, then hit the subscribe button and press the notification icon. I will see you guys in the next week with another amazing podcast. Till then, just stay safe, stay home, take care of yourself and your family too.